So Parler has now been shut down, essentially. You try to go on their website, parler.com, it doesn't work at all. And you can't download it from your phone anymore. What is Parler? It's a social networking service where people can blog. It hosts a lot of right-wing and conservative people on there, most likely because these people have been banned from other social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. But essentially it is known for its right-wing conspiracy theorist, anti-Semitic content. It doesn't have a lot of users, 4 million active users. So now it's been suspended from both the Google and App Store for failing to curb violent content and threatening content on its platform. Isn't that interesting how these social media giants control everything? They control speech completely now. You can't even have your own terms of service now because if they don't agree with it, they just ban you. And that should be a little bit concerning to everyone. Even if you don't like Parler, the power that these big companies hold should concern you. Especially when these big companies, like not Apple and Google, but Twitter in this instance, were able to ban the president of the United States from its platform. And a lot of people say, well, it's a free market. There are alternatives. But the problem is that there's not really good alternatives. If you only have one platform to express yourself and that platform bans you, it is effectively banning your free speech. I mean, you're still free to speak, but you don't have a platform at all. You can't speak anyways. No one can hear your message, so it's like speaking to a wall. Anyway, so the website now is also down, like I showed you. It's not just the Google and Apple stores. So it was hosted by Amazon. I didn't even know Amazon sold server space, but I guess we learn something every day. Amazon Web Service said it cannot provide services to a customer that is unable to effectively identify and remove content that encourages or incites violence against others, adding that Parler poses a real risk to public safety. So now Amazon is responsible for public safety. Okay, isn't that the responsibility of governments? Okay. I guess the Department of Amazon Web Service has decided what's good and not good for society. I understand some moderation if Amazon didn't want to host a website for like ISIS. So no clear real terrorists. Islamic terrorists that blow people up and torture people, I understand, okay? I could definitely argue, well, the people that stormed the Capitol are terrorists, and I would agree with that. And I'm sure that some of them were on Parler, right? But to ban the whole platform for that is odd. The people responsible for the terrorist activities that happen at Capitol are the terrorists themselves, not the platform. It's like saying that terrorists use phones to call themselves and organize themselves. Therefore, the phone company is responsible for the terrorist activities. Like technically, they indirectly played a part in it because their phones were used, right? The telecommunication that was used was like Verizon, for example. So Verizon played an indirect role in the terrorist attack. That would be true, but you're still not going to blame Verizon for that because if you moderate, then you become a publisher, right? That was a big thing with Facebook a while ago. Facebook kept saying no, it's not a publisher, but then at the same time it moderates speech and stuff. So if you have a say in it, you're kind of a publisher, aren't you? But anyways, that's there are a lot of arguments on both sides. And if we can say that Facebook is not responsible for posts that are posted on their site, then why are we not extending the same principle to Parler? And people are going to say, well, the difference is that Facebook, when they find terrorist activities on their website, they remove it. And what Amazon Web Service are accusing Parler of doing is knowing that there were incitement of violence on its platform and just letting it be, not censoring the encouragement of violence. So the way they see it is that terrorists were on their platform and they were not censoring them. They were not moderating that. But the problem I see is that there's a big difference between actual terrorist organizations like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these idiots, these rioters, right? These are rioters, essentially. It's like saying we should ban Facebook because Antifa groups exist on Facebook. Or like we should ban Twitter because even though they do have moderation, the moderation is not applied equally. A lot of people incite violence on Twitter and don't get banned. All these platforms that say that they do moderate violence, sometimes there are users that are still encouraging violence, and even if you report them, nothing happens. Should the platform itself be banned for that? Because they allow some people who encourage violence to be on there. Even though their terms of service says they don't, well, they still let these people on the platform anyways. I'm wondering at what point can we say that the platform itself is responsible for the posts of its users? At what point can we say, yes, there is enough moderation that you are fine? But if you don't moderate enough, is the argument, well, you have to moderate a little bit, you have to make a little bit of an effort? Is the argument, well, you have to have at least some framework of moderation for it to to be okay, and then you can enforce that whichever way you want. Like, what is the argument? There is no consistency. There's no clear guideline. It's weird that we even say that, because this is just Amazon. We're not talking about the government here, right? This is just what Amazon wants you to do. This is how Amazon wants you to run your own website. To me, this just seemed like recently we've had these big companies banning Trump, and it just seems like they're on a roll at the moment. They want to ban anything related to Trump because they see him as a risk to democracy, and that includes his supporters. So it doesn't seem like there was a lot of thought going into this. They saw, a lot of right-wingers on that website, a lot of MAGA people on that website. Apparently they organized there, therefore we was ban it. The riots at Black Lives Matter that were most likely organized on Facebook. Let's forget that. That's fine, because these were left-wingers. But here, in this instance, we have to ban this. And I am not taking a strong stance on either side. I'm not sure if Parler should be banned or not. Like, I understand the argument that you should have some framework. I think that should be fine. I think as a whole, it's probably better if platforms that used to organize insurrections don't exist, especially if these platforms were aware and knew of these incitement of violence and did absolutely nothing. I'm just concerned about who makes those decisions. Why isn't it the government making this decision? Like, why does it have to come from a tech company? Isn't that odd? Like, it seems like that's a lot of goddamn power to have, to like completely be able to censor a platform because you don't like their terms of service, or because you don't like the content that was going on. How substantive were these incitement of violence? Was the insurrection actually planned? I thought it was Trump that gave a speech, and then in the heat of the moment people stormed the Capitol. To what degree are there groups organizing and causing actual violence? Is there an actual real threat to public safety here or not? I'm not sure, but I am concerned. I am concerned when free speech is stifled. I'm concerned when there is censorship. I'm concerned where people cannot express their free speech. My views on free speech, I'm almost a free speech absolutist. I think everything is allowed except encouraging violence, ironically. I know it's ironic because I'm making that video, but like clearly encouraging violence, like saying like, let's go kill this person here. I don't think that speech should be allowed. I think hate speech should be allowed, but that is pretty much it. Just not encouraging violence for me personally. And probably defamation, lying about someone to destroy their reputation. I don't think that should be protected speech. So that is a very interesting situation happening here for me to think about. And by the way, in terms of the law in the United States, the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act says that a computer service can be treated as the publisher or speaker of a third-party content, so it protects websites from lawsuits if a user posts something illegal, with a few exceptions: copyright violations, sex work-related material, violations of federal criminal law. But generally speaking, if someone posts something illegal on Facebook, you're not going to sue Facebook for that. You're going to go after the person, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that, in principle, the person that is responsible for their action is the person who posts, not the company who hosts them. Obviously, it's been shut down by another corporation that wants its values and its terms of service to be respected. And of course, you make the argument, well, it's their web service, they can do it. Yeah, fine. But I mean, should they do it? Should Amazon be the gatekeeper here? Should these big two corporations, Apple and Google, decide what we, the public, can see or not see? That's a lot of power to have, to not be elected. It is an infringement on free speech because these people can't express themselves anymore. Regardless of if you think that their opinions were shit or not, it doesn't matter. Freedom means that you're free to be an idiot if you want to. I mean, and if you believe in the principles of free speech, you should protect the right to political speech, even if you think it's retarded. Just use your speech to tell them they're retarded. That's how I think free societies should work, not ban each other when they don't like what they're saying. Of course, there are limits to everything, right? I do think that encouraging violence, directly encouraging violence, like saying, go kill that person right there, that should not be allowed, especially when the threat is serious. But again, the person responsible for that would be the person saying it, not the public platform that's hosting it. But anyways, Amazon decided that this website was infringing on its policy, which says that customers may not use its services for any illegal, harmful, fraudulent, infringing, or offensive use, implying that Parler is responsible for the behavior of its users. Now, you may think, well, why does it matter if we censor these idiots, these Trumpists, right? They organize on Parler and then storm the Capitol. It's because of them. If Parler wasn't there, maybe they couldn't have organized and did this. And that's true, but I'm going to argue that censorship is a slippery slope. And don't come at me and say that slippery slope is a fallacy. Slippery slope is a fallacy if you exaggerate. If you say, if we allow gays to marry, then eventually we'll let dogs marry too. And all. That's a fallacy. Clearly, it's an exaggeration of the slippery slope. But sometimes the slippery slope is a serious concern. If we say that it's okay to ban the president, for example, or the Trumpists who are conspiracy theories, or any conspiracy conspiracy theory. Like, when do we stop? When do we draw the line? The line is really hard to draw. For example, people like Sam Harris criticizes Islam. Do we ban him because he's prejudiced against Muslims? He's not prejudiced against Muslims, but that's debatable. A lot of people are going to say that he is by simply criticizing Islam, that you are now an Islamophobe. And it's hard to draw the line. Like, and I mentioned Sam Harris because this dude was a free speech advocate, and then all of a sudden he is now cheering on Trump being banned. And people have pointed out to him that he might be next because of his criticism of Islam. And it's not also that, not even just Islam. If you criticize Muslims, there are real reasons to criticize Muslims. Not every single Muslim, but even the majority of Muslims in the Islamic world should be criticized, because if we look at some polls, they don't have Western values the way that we do. The majority of them. Unfortunately, that's the thing. For example, as we know, like, this study came out a few years ago. Half of all British Muslims, more than half, think that homosexuality should be banned. So we can't criticize that. We can't say that this is homophobic, right? Because it's Muslims that are saying it. Now, if we say Muslims are homophobic, this is actually true, right? We could get banned. People can say we are Islamophobic here. We are prejudiced against Muslim, but we're not. We're just showing the truth. We're just showing data, right? But my point is, if we start saying, yes, we should ban Trumpists, that slippery slope can extend to reasonable criticism of ideologies or even of people. And I don't think that we should just say in this instance that, oh, this is just a criticism of Islam as a philosophy, not of people. No. We should criticize the people as well, because they believe this crazy ideology, or this ideology that doesn't match Western values, which we think as Westerners is really important and we value it. So here, if that's, that's The Guardian, a left-wing publication. When asked to what extent they agree to disagree that homosexuality should be legal in Britain, 18% said they agreed and 52% said they disagreed, compared to 5% among the public at large who disagreed. So there's a clear disparity in terms of Western values here among non-Muslims and Muslims. If you want Muslims to integrate and have Western values because you want social cohesion in your country, this can't happen. You can't have that. You can't have half of the Muslim population thinking that homosexuals should be behind bars. See, they don't even, like, almost half said that they did not agree for a gay person to become a teacher. That's just an example I'm giving you. I'm criticizing Muslims here as people because of their illiberal values. I think that should be okay, but what I'm saying here could get myself banned if people agree that we should start censoring speech that we disagree with. You might disagree with my criticism or whatever. You might be offended that I just told you that, even though this is a clear fact by statistics, by polling, that British Muslims are homophobic. But you're not going to ban me for it, right? Because or else if you ban me for it, we're never going to be able to speak about anything. Every time someone gets offended, we're going to ban them. And this is dangerous. So I say, let the conspiracy nuts speak, and we use our speech to challenge them. Obviously, it's not going to change our mind. But if we start banning stuff because we disagree with what is being said on there, then it's never going to stop. Then only acceptable speech is going to be thriving on that platform. And you know that the terms of service are not enforced equally. How many white left-wingers have said that we should blow up shit if Republicans appoint a new justice to the Supreme Court and nothing happened? Isn't that incitement of violence, right? But then Trump says we should walk on Capitol, we should be strong. It's all hints, obviously, suggesting that they should be violent. But it's not clear. It's not like, go to Capitol and start breaking it. Go kill some people. No, that's clearly incitement of violence. Clearly. But his speech, I did think it was incitement of violence indirectly, but there's an argument to be made that it was not. His speech could have been interpreted a different way. I can totally accept that argument, but he's still been banned. And the question is, when is it going to be you? Like, what can we say and not say before you're censored? And when there's no alternatives, you are being censored. Anyways, I don't like censorship. I don't like that these big tech companies have all the power here to control what happens in society. I also don't like that when an alternative comes about, that these big companies can just ban it. So there is no possible alternatives. You see how that is worrisome? Because, Amazon, Apple, and Google are the God kings whose rule we must follow. Either way, Parler is looking for another vendor now, but apparently other companies with enough server space to host the site have also shut their doors. And a lot of illiberal people are going to be very happy about this, I know. And then we see this dumb tweet here. To anyone complaining about a private company kicking Trump off their platform, think of Twitter as the Christian bakery and Trump as the gay wedding cake. Ban Trump from Twitter. It's ironic that he tweets this because he did not want the gay person to be turned away, right? Well, so what he wanted a Christian bakery to make the cake for the gay person. And if we turn this around, based on his own logic, he wants Twitter to keep Trump there. Otherwise, he's being a hypocrite because he wanted to force the Christian baker to make the cake for the gay, but he is okay with letting Twitter kick Trump off the platform. Do you see how that logic doesn't work? My argument is, this private company can kick Trump off its platform, and the Christian baker can refuse service to the gay person. My argument is, should they do it, though? I don't think that the Christian baker should refuse service, but they can. I don't think that Twitter should censor Trump. They can, but I don't think they should, because it's an awful precedent. It's a slippery slope, and it's anti-free speech in principle. Not based on the law, in principle, is what I said. I see another tweet here. Imagine if someone like Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the IRA, or others were using these server farmers for chat rooms and organizing insurrection. Sure, all the people complaining about freedom of speech would be first in line to complain when was banned this site. Okay, so imagine that Al-Qaeda was on Facebook and they were organizing insurrections on Facebook. Should Facebook be banned? No? Why? So you're saying that Boomer Bob should not be able to post about stupid stuff he finds on the internet because Al-Qaeda was organizing, therefore we should shut the whole website down. How about you just ban Al-Qaeda? I mean, if it's that bad, remove them from your platform. If Al-Qaeda is on the platform, the quick fix is to simply ban Al-Qaeda from the platform, not ban the whole platform as a whole, like what is happening now. But then the argument is, yeah, Facebook would ban Al-Qaeda, and Parler is not banning their MAGA insurrectionists. And that's a fair argument if there's a clear case of someone inciting violence and organizing to cause violence on the platform, and Parler has an opportunity to ban them. I think that's a reasonable infringement on free speech, and I think that should happen. And if they don't, then they're getting banned by the web server, which, okay, I guess fair enough, but you have to be sure that this happens. And the comparison is not correct either way. You can't compare Al-Qaeda to the MAGA people that stormed the Capitol, because obviously, well, both were violent, but Al-Qaeda is way more violent. These guys bring guns and blow shit up, blow themselves up. It's way different. Now, imagine if what happened to the Capitol was all Al-Qaeda people. It would have been an actual war, right? These are dedicated terrorists. Their life goal is to terrorize people. That's what they want. That's what they live every day. The other people, the patriots, so-called patriots, were dumb Americans that thought they were part of a revolution. And now they're going to go back to their small farm and pout that their president lost. It's not comparable. And then the reality check hashtag. Who's this guy? I find profiles that are dedicated to commentary really interesting. Like, I understand the irony, I'm a commentary YouTuber, but videos are more interesting. This is really weird, people who make Twitters like this. I also find it very odd that some people are like really excited about censorship, and then they like rub it in your face, right? Like this guy here. What you are experiencing is capitalism in its purest form. Capitalism gives vendors the right to refuse service to anyone. People pay for a service, but those people have to agree to the terms and conditions. They break them, the company can withdraw the service, and this is true. This is very true. Nothing he said here was wrong, but he's thinking about this in really black and white, not thinking about the long-term consequences of banning speech that you disagree with. And we don't have capitalism in its purest form. That's why we have regulations. As soon as you have one regulation, you don't have capitalism in its purest form. Okay, that's the point I was making about Facebook. Look, ISIS has literally been able to use Facebook, but nobody's kicking a fuss calling for Facebook to be taken down. That's true. I know what people are going to say. Well, Facebook actually tried to take down these ISIS people, and Parler lets these guys just talk and talk, right? Parler has no moderation at all, but you can't compare ISIS to conspiracy nuts. I know people are going to say, well, they one stormed the Capitol and was a terrorist. Both are terrorists, but deep down you know that ISIS people are way more scary than MAGA people. They're way more hardcore. They're real terrorists. These MAGA people were dumb fucks. That's what they were. It's like comparing Antifa to ISIS. Antifa arguably are terrorists too, to a certain extent. Like, I think they're just as much of a terrorist than these MAGA people, right? Because they terrorize people. They go out in the street, they beat people up, they break shit, just like what these MAGA people did. Well, the intention of the MAGA people was worse, right? It was to overthrow democracy. But in terms of violence, I think Antifa is probably worse. This was just a rant. I'm uncomfortable with letting big companies ban platforms. It's concerning, but I do understand where they're coming from. I do understand the benefits of banning incitement of violence, but it has to be clear. And I'm still concerned about the power that these big tech companies have over everything, apparently, and the power that they have in censoring speech. Now, right now, I agree that violence should be censored, but what if it's hate speech? I don't agree that hate speech should be censored. What if they start taking down websites that allow hate speech or whatever they deem as hate speech, like criticism of Islam, like, for example, that was the example I gave. I think that's a good one. What if they say that this is hate speech and we should censor it? See how, it starts with one step, right? So here you're censoring violence. It has to stop right there. It can't continue on. And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the power that these big tech companies companies have, and that censorship will just get crazier. But other than that, if a company is hosting people who are organizing violence, I think it's not crazy to shut down that company in the way you can, or censor them just like Amazon did. I don't like it, but I understand it. I understand that it's necessary. Anyways, guys, that's it. Like, comment, subscribe, peace.